All right, guys, we're here at the dermatology clinic. I am extremely nervous. We're gonna figure out whatever we're gonna figure out. And my goal, my hope is we're just gonna cut this thing off and I'll be back to normal. So fingers crossed, let's go in and face the fate. Well, guys, fast forward a couple days in the future. The appointment and the news that I got, there's no other way to put it. It wasn't good, unfortunately. The doctor said I most likely have melanoma, skin cancer. It can be very dangerous, but he's not 100% sure. And I, through this whole thing, just want to stay 100% on the positive side of all of this. So I'm really hoping for the other alternatives. Could be other things. So we did a biopsy. It took a chunk out of my back about a little bigger than a quarter and almost an inch deep. So big chunk out of my back. It's a little tender, that's for sure. Actually, it doesn't really hurt as bad as you might think though. Anyways, and that's off to be tested. And now is the waiting game. And that's a really hard part of all this. So I went, Chelsea and I went to dinner after the appointment. And then we went home and I just was like up way too late at night just with my thoughts, and it wasn't good. So I booked the next ticket to Disneyland. We grabbed Chelsea, we jumped on a plane. Now I'm in California at Disneyland, just spending a couple days in one of my happiest places to just get my mind off of things. So that's me, that's what's going on. That's the news. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling positive, and every day I'm feeling better. So I've got some Disneylanding to do. I told the guys to just do whatever they wanted back at the shop for a couple days while I'm gone. So let's see what they did. This will be fun to watch. I haven't seen any of this either, so I'm just gonna kind of do a little bit of voiceover, a little narration, and we can talk about kind of the different things that I'm seeing as we go. Looks like they got the driver's side fender off really easily, and the hood off, and they're trying to, if I had to guess, I'd say what they're looking at doing is getting a clean line of sight to cut the front end off, from the firewall forward. They want to cut all that off. And it looks like this passenger side, well, I guess it's a JDM car, so technically the driver's side fender is causing some problems. All right, fender came off pretty easily. Next is the plastic cowl piece. That's a really important piece that we want to maintain because it's going to help us keep looking like we have a clean kind of chop line when we mold this back onto the other car. Then jumping inside, it looks like what I would be doing is kind of getting the wires out of the way and looking for a good clean spot to cut before starting to cut basically cutting around the firewall to remove the whole front subframe, the front strut towers, and all that good stuff that's got to come out of there as well. And let the cutting begin. These new Harbor Freight Sawzalls that we got are so much better than the old ones that we had. They've made a lot of improvements in the last year or two on the design of these things, and they cut so much better than what we used to be working with. So it makes cutting these cars up actually a lot faster. Now what you're gonna see here is when it goes to cut, like everything has two layers of skin basically. You can look at it like that. There's an outer and an inner. They do this because it builds a lot of structural support in there, and it makes it really strong. But sometimes you got to do what Oscar just did right there. We cut a massive little strip out so you can actually see what's underneath it and get the saw in underneath it, because the blade doesn't want to go through both pieces at once usually, unless you're using a really long blade. It's funny, it is for build. So Oscar did one side, now he knows how to do it, but then we switch over and let Kyle do the other side, and that's just because we are about like learning how to do this stuff, and it's fun to do. So it's like, oh, I got to do one, now I learned how to do it, now you can do the other side. It looks like Kyle got that. I could see that the structural support is now gone out of that piece. I could see that crack opened up wide, so Kyle's got that cut in half, and now they're looking at how they want to cut the rest of this out. So removing a lot of wiring here. Oscar makes quick work of that wiring bundle, and cutting through the trans tunnel and around to where they can meet up with their top cut right underneath the cowl. And with that being done, a little bit of a hang up in that corner, but it is off. We're now looking at a cut in half R34. Seems so crazy. Door removal, pretty self-explanatory. Got those doors off. Trunk removal, pop that thing off. And now comes some of the harder stuff. We have to salvage all of the interior that we can, so Oscar's popped a couple interior panels off there. You can see he's left the seatbelt reel in case we want to use that or mount into that area. And now we got to make room on the floorboards to be able to cut the floor pan out of the car. And let the cutting begin. So this is the easy cut, the floor pan back to the rear diff and the rear suspension. It's pretty easy, it's pretty square, and you can see the saw is just like ripping through it, so it'll make short work of all this floor pan. And this is also all only one layer thick, so it's a lot easier to cut. Looks like they've got it cut out, but it doesn't want to come out. They're not really sure why. And it is the differential underneath there. It was hung on somehow. Probably a carrier bearing is bolted into the underbelly of that floor pan, so it wouldn't let it come out. So now that that's all out of there, actually comes the hardest part of these cuts, where you're cutting out the rear subframe, the rear suspension, the rear strut towers, and trying to keep in mind how much of that rear speaker deck you want to leave, how much of that's going to stay, and then where, when you cut, like where's it going to go, because there's a lot of blind cuts that you have to make here, and you could go check on the other side, you know, if you got through, if you're into the wheel well, or where you're landing. But there's a lot of really hard angles, very hard places to get the saw in here, but Oscar's doing a great job of figuring it out and kind of cutting through there. But that's what I would say is the hardest piece of the cutting puzzle to taking the floor pan out of one of these cars. And now we're jumping into the trunk, and Oscar actually told me that, you know, they thought ahead on the trunk and did not take as much of the trunk off as we normally would. They left a lot of extra, because our R35 trunk is pretty mangled, so the more material that we have there, actually the better. So that was a really smart call by the guys to leave as much of that trunk in there as we possibly can, while still getting this the rear subframe wheel wells and stuff out. And there we go. It's cut out. It's free. We got the car is now on the new Harbor Freight Gantry Crane that they sent us, and they're able to raise the body independently of that rear subframe that they took out, and they'll eventually here raise this body up over and pull the subframe out. Alright guys, I am back from California and we have a cut up GTR. Let me show you around it. So the whole firewall is cut up, coming all the way back to this windshield like we saw in the video. This is what our frame rail is looking like right now, running back. And in the next episode we're gonna have to hollow some of this out to be able to just have from the pinch weld over. We're gonna take care of all of the rest of this. So it's like, whenever we're doing this, we'll just make a big preliminary cut a bunch of stuff out, and then make room to do the fine detail cutting. So this silver part has got to be gone. We've got to be left with the red part. So you can see that the rear like wheel tub is out. Oscar said he really wanted to leave as much of the trunk as possible for because we don't have a trunk in the other car, which is a really good point. Interior still all here, all good. We're gonna have to be very careful and very carefully do a lot of glass removal. And when we come over here to the back, you can see that there's still a lot of material in the back side here. And to get access to that, we have to, we gotta get through this window right here. And this is the one that just really can't be replaced. So we have to be very careful with it and make sure it doesn't get broken when we do removal. It looks like it's got a little trim piece here that we'll have to take off carefully and then run our wire around there and get that rear window off so we can get the access to all that stuff and get it all cut out. It's looking good. Also, shout out to Harbor Freight for hooking us up with this gantry. If you guys remember, they saw the show, they liked what we were doing, they asked if there's anything that they could send out to help, and we wanted to have this gantry so we can be able to lift the car up and down, lift the body up, put the R35 under here, test fit it down, back and forth, back and forth. I knew this gantry would be a really solid way to do that, and with all the engine pulls and stuff that we do that, it's a really awesome tool to have. So shout out to Harbor Freight for sending this out to us. There'll be a link in the description if you guys need to get one for yourself. It's a really good tool to have around the shop. I'm really happy about it. It's great. It's really good quality too. So thanks to them for that. Well, we started this episode a few days back by going to the dermatologist, and I just got the news of my biopsy. It's not great and it's not terrible. So I'm not done yet. I need definitely at least a surgery, and then maybe some either chemotherapy or other medicines. There's some very advanced medicines now that are really good at melanoma, but I do have a melanoma cancer on my back, and we got to keep working at it. So given that news, there's a couple things in my head. Like I'm obviously scared, like anybody should be scared, but I'm very positive, and I don't want this to be some big defining thing in my life. Like, this is a thing that we're gonna cut out, and we are gonna win, and we're gonna do whatever we have to do to overcome it, and then I'm gonna move on and be the same person and do the same thing that I love to do. So my next appointment isn't gonna be anytime soon, and I don't say this enough, but I love my job. I love what I do. There's two really cool things about this. Is the cars are cool themselves, but making the show helps give me the ability to sometimes inspire some people to do some cool stuff, or maybe just brighten somebody's day. And I get a lot of pride out of that, and I get a lot of fulfillment out of that, and I enjoy doing it. So with that being said, I'm not gonna stop doing the show. I'm gonna be here as much as I possibly can. Kyle and Oscar got my back in all the other angles as well. I mean, they're so good. We could run this thing like a clock without me, but I'm here. This is what I love to do every day. This is what I want to be doing, and I mean, it's not gonna do me any good to just sit at home and think about dumb stuff. Like, this is, like I said, we're gonna just tackle this thing. I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna win, and then we're just back on the road, literally back on the road. So thank you guys all so much for your kind thoughts, your prayers, the emails, everybody that's emailed me their success stories, all the awesome cancer survivors out there. Thank you so much. It always brightens my day, and I just want to let you know that I appreciate you very much. And since starting this build, and definitely since the beginning of the whole cancer diagnosis thing, I've kind of let the whole ads slip. You guys know that I normally do an ad in almost every single episode, if not, every other one. Those have been piling up, so get ready for a lot coming up really soon here in the future. I apologize if you don't enjoy them, just skip them, but just know it's going to a good cause to just keep us being able to do what we want to do, so we can keep putting on a show for you guys. So thank you guys all so much. Thank you all so much for the support. This episode, started in a weird way, and it's coming all the way back around in a weird way, but don't overthink it. I'm just 100% staying positive, and these are just hurdles that we're gonna get through. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be a wrap on this. Thank you so much for all the support. This thing is coming along really awesome. In the next episode, we will have this body on the R35. We already got started on it. We're having a blast. Lots of cutting. So it seems to be the theme completely, considering the size of the hole in my back. So yeah, all right, thanks guys. See you on the next one. Peace. Come on.